So when I used to fly to New York, I'd fly into Newark, which is in New Jersey, and as you fly over, you see this beautiful wetland that kind of expands all along New York City, in between New York City and New Jersey, and it looked like this beautiful wetland, and it is an area that I always wanted to go canoeing in. And then as you get on the train from Newark to New York City, you go over this spot, and for a split second you see this kind of area that looks a little polluted and run down, and then it's over. It's as though this space just kind of like disappears. And I started asking people about it, and it has a reputation as being this spot where there's a lot of mobster activity and a lot of garbage dumps and toxic waste, but it kind of disappeared from view because the highways go over it, railways just cut right through it, and it's really unclear how large of a space it is. And there was something poetic about this place and the fact that even though it was destroyed by humans, it was recovering, and it was recovering in part because we had destroyed it, and it was recovering in part because it had kind of disappeared from people's consciousness. And so I wanted to make a film about this spot, and then also to look at, can an area like this that is in ecological, is recovering ecologically, become a wilderness, however you want to define wilderness, and what does that, what value does a place like that have? It's an issue I feel very strongly about, and it kind of parallels a certain part of my life. I used to work as a sea kayak guide in Alaska, and I had a really bad accident. And I left my career as a sea kayak guide, and I left living in Alaska, and eventually I moved to New York. And doing this trip was a kind of a way to find that sort of lost sense of wilderness that I had when I lived in Alaska, and to find a similar place close to where I lived. But also as kind of an attempt to be fully recovered, to kind of be able to go out there, withstand the elements, ask questions about what kind of place this is, and how this affects how we think about issues of sustainability and preservation, while also getting back to my roots as a guide and in this kind of absurdist trip. It follows both my state of mind, or the state of mind of this place, and the place itself as being a character. And those are kind of the two driving forces. And looking at the idea of wilderness, that is kind of it's something we conjure up in ourselves as our response to being vulnerable, to being exposed to the elements, to seeing wildlife, and that all directly relates to being in this place. The New Jersey Meadowlands has a very distinct character. It's been abused and destroyed, and yet it's recovering, and in an odd way is this sort of symbol, however distorted, is the symbol of recovery in kind of our contemporary world, where there aren't very many places of wilderness left untouched. And the people in the film, help drive the story, but really it is their reaction to this place that tells the narrative. And you have to have that reaction in order to understand, from a cinematic perspective, to understand the place itself.
The National Weather Service has issued a flood warning. Oh shit.
I think it means that our campsite's going to be flooded.